It wasn't long ago that we sent the latest round of Pokemon X and Pokemon Y info through our analysis process, and we uncovered a surprising amount of details. But yet, it seems we didn't quite catch everything as pointed out by you guys. So we're back again for round 3 of our Pokemon X and Pokemon Y analysis to share some of the things we missed as well as some of your theories. But before we start, please make sure to watch our previous analysis if you haven't already, as we'll be referring to it throughout the video. And thanks again to our resident Pokemon expert Derek Bittner in helping to put this together. And with that, let's get started by taking a look at the world map. Now in our first analysis, we suggested this small town to the north may be where you start the game, based on its similar appearance to past games and its secluded location. But according to Grant and many of our other viewers, the starting town might actually be this one located in the southern tip of the map. And here's why. The first trailer showed off a sign for Route 3, meaning it's early into the game, and we can see a town in the background which appears to be this one on the map. And if the camera works like in past games, that means we're approaching that town from the south, as north has historically been in the upward direction. Assuming this is the case, Waso Mako Salo takes this theory even further, stating that Route 1 might be the road from the starting town to the castle bridge, and Route 2 would lead from there to the forest, which means Route 3 would connect from that forest to the town. And this actually makes sense given that in many past Pokemon games, the trainer would leave their hometown, travel along a short route before reaching the next town, and then make their way through a forest area in order to reach the first gym town. So if this is true, what about that town we originally thought might be the starting location? Well, Alexander has an idea. Do you see that large tree in the center? He believes this could actually be the location of the tree-based gym we saw back in the first trailer. So far, this all makes a lot of sense, but let's back up to that Route 3 clip again, as there are two possible snags. For one, if we're approaching from the south, shouldn't Lumio City be visible in the background? Of course, it is possible it's just off camera, but what about those mountains in the distance? If we look at the map, there don't seem to be any close mountain ranges north of the town, but there are several just south of it. This suggests we might actually be approaching it from the north in this clip. Then again, maybe the mountains in the background really aren't as close as they seem. Moving on, we already knew Lumio City is heavily based on Paris. Hell, as Argorox pointed out, the town's name is based on the Latin root for light, and Paris is commonly known as City of Light. And beyond that, A97013 pointed out that many of the other towns and locations in Kalos are in the same general location as equivalent landmarks in real life, such as the Fountain Town area, which seems to be based off of the real-life gardens of Versailles. And as Argorox pointed out, what we originally thought to be places based on Stonehenge and Notre Dame are more likely based off the Karnak stones and Mont Saint-Michel, respectively. So rather than having a general European feel, Kalos appears to be inspired exclusively by France. Now getting back to Lumio City, this metropolis is hiding many more secrets than we could have ever imagined, and one was staring us right in the face. Mr. Game Master 24 pointed out that the billboard that the male trainer runs by could be where the Pokemon contests or musicals are held, which makes sense given that we already know Pokemon accessories are back, which are crucial to those events. Then there's the fact that cars seem to have a major presence in the city. Dionysus Galanis and many others wondered if it's possible that these cars might serve as taxis getting around the city as a form of fast travel. And just look at that little Vanillite head on top that Skyluigi 2 and others spotted. So adorable. But just because there are cars in Lumio City doesn't mean there won't be other modes of transportation. Rake1 Nightmare points out that the female trainer walks right by a sign that's reminiscent of a bus stop. Maybe you'll be able to catch a ride on one. That's what Multi-Super Chaos thinks, and he believes that this could be the end of HMs as we know them. Instead, he thinks trainers could gain key items like a raft instead of using Surf, or a Strength Enhancer to take care of big rocks blocking the way instead of using the Strength HM, which he thinks might be what the black bracelet on the trainer's wrist in this artwork could be for. But the Arnaud44 doesn't agree. He thinks these bracelets might actually be the return to the Pokéetch from the 4th generation. Beyond that, a lot of attention is also paid to our friend Gogurt the Go-Goat. At least we think he's our friend, since it's possible he doesn't actually belong to us when we ride him in the city. Elena Uchiha thinks that rather than having to catch a Go-Goat, we might actually rent one to ride around Lumio City and give him back when we reach certain checkpoints. And as Jorge pointed out, this Go-Goat is wearing a mat while the trainer rides him around the city, which he isn't wearing during the battle sequences. So perhaps it appears automatically when you ride him, or maybe it's a special item that you need to obtain before you can ride him in the first place. But despite all these Go-Goat mysteries, it seems we may actually know what he sounds like. As Mendez Supreme points out, we can hear a Pokemon's cry at the beginning of the recent trailer, just as Go-Goat is being introduced. So more than likely belongs to our friend here, but more importantly, it also shows that the classic digitized Pokemon cries aren't being changed, despite the graphical overhaul. Okay, so we've talked about how you might get around in this city, but what about in general, while on foot? As he pointed out before, the trailer makes it appear that you'll have more freedom instead of the mechanical grid-based movement of past games. But Dark Chaos Games doesn't think that's quite the case, because of the way the trainers appear to remain perfectly parallel to the buildings and how easily a 90-degree turn is performed. As such, he believes that grid-based movement is still in place, but it's been expanded to allow for diagonal movement, similar to the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series. And that's enough about the trainers. We're here to talk about the Pokemon after all. And one of the biggest things we missed was a closer inspection of the artwork for the new Pokédex, which reveals a few interesting details if we zoom in close as suggested by Pikmin Rock 1. So first of all, it seems the new Pokédex will have an iPhone-style grid-based layout that expands when you click on one of the boxes. And based on the same grid layout, we can see that Fennekin is listed as the 4th Pokemon, which is consistent with the Fire-type starters of past games. And knowing this, we can infer that Chespin will be number 1 and Froakie will be number 7, with their evolution forms filling in the gaps on the grid. Beyond that, we can see confirmation that Zigzagoon is not only back, but will be catchable early on. And just right of him is what appears to be Fletchling, which looks like he might have 2 evolution forms, and the 2 blank spaces between him and the next Pokemon are any indication. And while we're talking about the Pokemon, no other received as much attention in our previous analysis as Sylveon did. And because many of you are debating what type of evolution this could be, we've decided to highlight some of the more popular theories. Now, as you might recall, we suggested that Sylveon has a good chance of being the rumored new fairy type based on its American name, and it seems that holds true for its other names around the world as well. As Struppel points out, Sylveon is named Felinara in Germany, and Fee translates to fairy. Now, as V-Fairy2 points out, Sylveon's name might actually be a reference to Sylvan rather than Sylph, as we thought, since Sylvan is a commonly used word in the fantasy genre to refer to fairy-like creatures. But if we return to our original thought that the name was based on the word Sylph, viewer Boss believes that the reference might actually mean it's a flying type, since Sylphs are fairies of the air. In other words, he's placing the emphasis on air instead of fairy. And then we have Ian, who adds another argument to the meaning behind Sylveon's name by pointing out that the genus Sylvia are warblers and is part of the broader Sylviidae family. Now, if you have no idea what I just said, it means that it's basically a bird, which supports a flying type idea. And Ian goes on to use Sylveon's French name as further proof, by pointing out that Nymphali could be derived from Nymphalidae, which is a family of butterflies, which also supports a flying type idea. And Nicholas backed this up by pointing out that the EV graph he used in our previous analysis always had one evolution across from its weakness. So Sylveon was a flying type, this would match a graph as she would be weak to the electric type opposite her. And then there's Jerry, who believes Sylveon could be a poison type, because there's a species of poison ivy called Rus sylvestris, which grows mainly in China, Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. So in case you didn't notice, they both have Sylv in the name. Man, you guys are smart! But the most interesting bit of information concerning Sylveon comes from the Japanese show Pokemon Smash, which tested to see what type she would fit into. According to one of our viewers, Malcolm, the show stated that Sylveon is actually weak to fighting types but strong against ice types, which fits the steel type Pokemon perfectly. That is until they tested to see if it was immune to poison moves, which she wasn't. Now, no existing Pokemon type matches this set of strengths and weaknesses, so Sylveon might actually be a new type after all. So what does this all mean for the odd pink building we pointed out on the world map last time that we thought might be the Fairy Gym? Well, as Sniffle91 points out, it might actually be a water gym since the building also resembles coral. To further support this idea, Stu mentions that Corsola, a water-type Pokemon from Generation 2, also resembles this building with its pink protrusions. Okay, so that about covers it for all the big details and theories you guys uncovered. But as usual, there's still just a few final details left. Take the Fault 1's observation that one of the released screenshots shows a player being challenged by a lass. Will these intro screens replace the usual trainer animations that appeared before and after every battle in the past games? Then Blue Emerald X noticed in the screenshot that showed Chespin's early moves that Vine Whip's base PP has been raised from 15 to 25, which could mean that some moves are being rebalanced. Finally, as many of you pointed out, the trainers can now sit on benches, and that's pretty benchin'. What does this add to the game? We have no idea, but it does introduce a degree of interactivity with the world that's never been seen before in a Pokemon game. And with that, we're done covering everything you could dig up on the latest trailer of Pokemon X and Pokemon Y. As usual, let us know if we still missed anything by posting in the comments below. If you enjoyed our analysis, please make sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain for all the latest gaming news. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stay tuned to GameXplain.com for more on Pokemon X and Pokemon Y and other things gaming too.